Yo, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to another tutorial. Today I've gotten quite a bit of requests on like how to properly fill out like a future bass track, especially the drop. Like how do you get it sounding so full and where does everything sit? And today I kind of want to show you how I did that on my track I'm Good, the bootleg I did almost like 10 months ago. So we're going to be diving into that, and it sounds a little something like this. So I'm in my project file, and the easiest, most straightforward answer is you need to have a lot of layers. In Future Bass, usually you have your lead categories, your chord / saw stack category, your mid basses, which are part of the stacks, and then you have your sub bass. Those are usually the four main elements. Obviously you have effects and then your drums that create the rhythm, but we're specifically going to dive into the actual synths. And you'll see I have it labeled lead, chords, mid bass, and my subgroup right here. That's my category, and that's how I like to do it. First off, let's just start from the bottom and work our way up, because I feel like that's going to be the easiest way to go about it. And we're going to start with just my traditional sub here. And as you can see, it's not just a low cut. So it sounds like this on its own. You might need headphones, but some of it should come through. I added that there because it sounded good to me, just like this. Still probably sound good. Verse. I feel like this fuzz up here really accents the chord stacks. And all this is just a sub that I took from Reverb, and all it is a clean sine wave with some air that goes extremely quick at 128s. So you can see here, without the noise, just creates a little more flutter, and then it's added some distortion to it. Very, very straightforward, and just a basic shape sine, distorting it a lot and making it mono to 200. So far, we're using span, which if you guys don't use, I highly recommend it. We have this in our subspectrum. Yo, real quick, just pausing the video. I just want to let you guys know, if you are liking the video, remember to like it. It does help me. If you're new here and haven't subscribed, I put out a ton of tutorials, and if you find this video useful, I think you'll find others plenty useful as well. So feel free to subscribe, and that's because over 66% of you guys that watch my video aren't subscribed, and you should do it. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. We'll move back to the video. You can see that the top is completely mono, because I have so much width with my hats, my rides, my saws, that it doesn't really need to be there. So it's nice to put something where it's not going to compete as hard. And yeah, so this is what we have so far. Second harmonic, it's really, as you can see, it's really taking up to almost 200. Personal preference, it sounds really good to me. And it tapers off here, which is important for our mixing our next step, which is going to be our mid basses. Our mid basses, there's used to be a lot more layers, but I cut it down, and this is what it sounds like. Our first one. You can see that it's not really competing. We had our first peak and then our second peak here. Now, we might get some muddiness with our sub, but in this instance, it doesn't really sound like it, and it's pretty mono compatible. If we look at this next one here, this other one, it's not as in phase, and the mid basses alone sound like this. And as you can see, it's not just covering the mids here. You'll see there's high end here. This is important. This is one thing when I was early on, when I was making Future Bass, I would struggle with, because I was like, it's a mid bass. We have our sub, we have our mid bass, so we're going to cut it off around here, and our saws are really going to have a ton of room to breathe, in which they do, but saws, the super saws, aren't that powerful. So it's really good to have the high end and then cut where it gets too harsh, especially when you're blending it with your saws. And if we're looking at the patches here, it's usually just pretty basic. So I have 3 parallel processed patches. Another one, another one. Nasco Scream bass I turned into a sustain. Once again, it's a saw bass. That's available on Splice as well for anyone. This is Siren's Gritty bass, which is part of my 40 free presets that I did with Spooky Bro, Siren, and all that. You guys can get that if you'd like as well. It's still free, still up. Released it like a year and a half ago, but we have this last one here, which sounds, or it's probably a saw. Yeah, literally only a saw. And then they're being multi-band compression together, and Serum effects, this on all of them. We have a Serum effects doing, just adding some width. Quite a bit of width, actually. Saturating it. Chorus isn't being used. Swag rack, which I don't know what that's from, but it's just OTT and Camel Crusher. With, without. Just adding a little distortion. Cutting it to shape. Boosting the high mids. And adding a little of width. A decent amount of width, actually. These are pretty mono. All those together. And then this one as well, is, I'm assuming, is just a variant of the saw that I had, and I just made it wider. There it is. That's what it looks like. Oh, that. No movement, just one mono, one distorted. Or one mono, one wider. So that's our mid bass. So as we can see, with just the sub and the mids, if we're shaping up our spectrum, we're taking up a lot of it already. Next we have our chords, which is going to be multiple saw stacks. And let me freeze this other one real quick, because it's going to take a lot of computing to get it. So we'll be edited right back in. Alrighty, so now we're at the saws, which is one of the hardest things to get right, in my opinion, and there's just a lot of layers to it. So we have a hyper saw here. Hyper saw, just 2 saws and compression, and not even any width to our more mono compatible one, which we'll throw over here real quick. It's not going to be mono because it's post-processing, but they're decently mono compatible. We have our super saws. And you can see that they still have low end too. We don't want to just cut this out like this. Like if I have them up here and play everything together real quick. This is killing my CPU, but if we pull it back to where it was before, the saws have a lot more presence, and they need to have presence. But the hardest thing about getting it right is a lot of people over distort their saws or try to push them too loud, and then you're getting really high end sharpness and you're having mid distortion from your mid basses clashing. So we have one more as well, which is apparently a square. This is apparently my chord one, just redone with a square. Cool. Extremely wide. If we play this in mono, it loses so much power. So that's one we're definitely going to lose in our mono mixdown. But all together, they sound like this. Just a little post-processing. And you'll see that with my saws, I use track spacer. You can use Soothe or anything else that you can pretty much sidechain something in time with. I'm sidechaining my saws to my leads to let my leads come through a little more. And that leads us to our next part here. Our leads here are 3 stacked leads. Alone, they sound like this. So we have a guitar lead. This is definitely just some preset I probably downloaded. It's absolutely not. It's just saws that I distorted. Never mind. So square lead. And then we finally just have a lead that I really like by Nasco. Once again, that's on Splice. all that is being distorted together. So if we take away that, the amp definitely gives it the grit. And they all have their role. They're all playing different spots. Once again, just like our saws, one's probably all mono or more mono, and we go widen our things up. Now, if I play this without track spacer, you'll see that there's a lot of clash between my super saws and my lead. So let's just play it real quick. There's a lot competing in this drop that I had to make work. One, the vocals have to cut through. Two, the saws need presence. And three, the leads also need to cut through because that's also driving it. So me adding the track spacer, now listen to the leads cut through a little better. And those are just being monoed and clipped. You'll notice that, I think with everything, I'm clipping every category. But everything's going to be clipped, and that's really important. And in dubstep or future bass, any EDM, just clip everything. When in doubt, clip it out. That's a good saying to go by. And all that creates your very full mix. If we pull all of our synths together now, and we look in span, we can see so one thing as well, and a good thing to kind of end on here, is you want your sub, look at that, no stereo here, you have your sub peak. We're going to call this the line roughly, this horizontal at -30. Our second peak, we're not having a ton of mud here, it's nowhere near this. This is a peak because that's where the lead's hitting in the meantime, but we're going to go boom, boom. We would generally want this a little higher here, and then we're going to round off a little bit. So we will kind of want that duck bill curve here. You can create all your different versions as well. The second drop, I change it up to other parts. We have a massive fake out, and then, which is just the synths themselves, sounds like this. And that's without the sub, actually, I believe. Or without the mid basses, sorry, it's just a sub. So when it comes in full, and then we change the chord structure here to something simple, but it works really well because we have a nice full sound. So when we change it, it still sounds full and satisfying to a listener. Well, my computer is not having fun with this, but you guys kind of get the point. But other than that, that's all I have for this video. I hope it was useful. I hope that helps clarify some things with future bass maybe you didn't understand. Like I said, if you have any questions, drop them down below. If you did get some out of this video, please like the video. Feel free to share with your friends and subscribe if you're new here. And on that note, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.